Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the grounds with Giles and Jones. I'm Giles, he's Jones, and here's the Slagle, where he says everything sounds angry if it's in German. I'm not quite sure.
Giles, Jones, and Slagle.
And Slagle. Hey, guys, welcome into us to the most unique show on the internet, I think we believe, right?
I think so.
Where you can actually come in, join us, and talk live if you want. You don't have to be camera ready because you can see we're not.
Hey,
but it
got
always
a face for radio.
I have a face for radio.
Big shout out to our friend John and his staff over at Natural Therapy Wellness, always supporting the station. www.mchenrymassage.com, 815-385-8190. A lot of people are sore because they're out doing a lot of yard work. They're moving around, doing a lot of things in this nice weather. So go get yourself a really nice massage. An entire team of licensed massage
they do
therapists.
Awesome work over there. I have personally been there. Love.
Get some
love
hot
them.
Stones going.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. I remember the first time getting those. That's scary.
Yeah.
Let's put some hot stones on you. It's like, did I do anything wrong?
No, seriously, cook me like a salmon. And and you'll see Uncle Pete there. There's the link. Join us live. Come on in, be part of the show, and enjoy this. Looks like Mr. Santos is in. Good morning, my friend. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. And of course, let us not forget our friends over at JH Events and Flowers. Listen, $5 Friday today. What do you do on the 19th of July? You get a $5 bundle of flowers. Give it to your wife, your spouse, your husband, significant other, your life partner, whatever. The flowers brighten up everybody's day. So stop at 2 locations, one in Fox Lake across from the train station, and the other, across from City Hall.
Across from City Hall there, right off of Green Street and Charles J. Miller.
Yeah.
Not only do they have great bouquets, but they're actually really good people to begin with. So that makes it even better. You know what I mean? I mean, any business can be a good business, but when you got good people behind that business, that makes it even more fun.
That's right.
And supporting local. It's huge. It's huge.
So today, we were going to talk about Christopher Columbus. Was he a pirate or a founder of a nation?
Yes.
But then about last Saturday, there was an incident in Pennsylvania, and an alleged assassination attempt. And so what we want to talk about is, do you hear what I hear?
I'm still cracking up on that. And remember, we don't talk about politics, so this is not politics.
No,
this
not
is
political.
This is really just our take on kind of what happened and why maybe things happened.
First of all, let's put a disclaimer out there. This is 3 guys having coffee. This is opinion. There's no facts. We're not spreading hate. We're not spreading misinformation. We're just talking about an incident that happened.
Well, and that's what this whole show is just about. Really, it's just guys sitting down talking about life and what's going on in life. And this is a pretty significant thing that happened. And
it is significant.
It
historically,
historically. It is. It is. One thing that I actually was funny, and not this will go a little bit political, but we were talking about it last night, is my wife said that there's only been one assassination attempt on a Democratic person versus a Republican. I don't know if that confirmed or not. We were talking about that. So if anyone really pays close attention to all these alleged, problems and situations, but I heard that there was only been one in our nation's history that somebody of the opposite party had been shot at. And I found that kind of interesting, if that really holds true. I didn't have time to dig into that, but if that really is true, it's kind of like, that the shit detector goes off up here going, what's happening?
I only remember one. And that was Reagan.
Yeah.
And then prior to that, you got JFK.
Yeah. Eisenhower.
I guess I should have asked him, because
Eisenhower was a Democrat or something. I don't know.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Did somebody try to kill Eisenhower?
I don't know.
But I just found that kind of interesting. I'm like, if that's really the case, you could really dive a little deeper. But
yeah. So we were talking in the green room, and you, Steve, and I thought the same thing. So I was on my way back home from Louisville when Alice told me the news. I was driving, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, former President Trump was shot in the head." I'm like, "Oh, did he die?" And she goes, "No, And
No.
the first thought went through my head is like, wow, that guy staged this.
That was the first thought through your
Wow, that's his narcissistic
and
personality, right?
And let's just talk about the game show that American politics has become.
It's
all about the show. It's all about the flair and the style and how dramatic can things be. So it would not have surprised me a little bit if it was staged.
Yeah.
Turns out it's most likely not. It's just we don't know. We might never know, but this kid is just another troubled kid with an assault rifle. We see that all the time in this country.
And that's
it's
kind
getting
of
more and more popular. And I don't mean it popular, but more and more
common.
Thank you very much. More and more common for sure. I mean, that 4th of July, was it 2 years ago?
2 years ago in Highland Park.
God, I can't believe it's been 2 years already. Time is just whizzing by.
Well, and let's
like a bullet next year. Never mind.
Yeah.
Oh.
But remember, no politics here, right? Only peanut butter.
When I was a kid, Columbine happened.
Oh yeah.
So Columbine was really that was the poster child event for mass shootings, school shootings.
That was the start.
Since then, it's become a regular occurrence. You can't go any amount of time. I was at Northern Illinois when the guy decided to open fire in the cafeteria. I wasn't in the cafeteria, but I was at Northern.
Yeah.
And dude just snapped one day, decided to just kill a bunch of people.
You were there, huh?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's scary. Yeah.
And they always say the same thing. It's it's the person you'd least suspect. In this case, I gotta say, you seen a picture of this kid
Crooks
that took the shot?
Yeah.
Crooks. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Put him in a lineup with 100 other people. That's the school shooter. Come on, look at his face. I'm throwing this.
So you're saying you have a type?
I was going to say. So you're saying there's a type. He definitely
he doesn't read stable from his Facebook photo.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say he doesn't look like he's kind of 100% all there.
Well,
right?
what did he think? What did he think? He was John Wilkes Booth with this, yelling "Sic Semper Tyrannis" up on the rooftop, putting on Steam that this is going to be Steam gaming platform for video games on your computer, right?
Yeah. Thanks for filling me on that. Steam, isn't that what comes out of a pipe?
Yeah.
Right. No, he posted some sort of post that said, "Hey, supposedly," and they're still confirming whether.
Let's use allegedly.
Yeah, let's use allegedly. Make sure
allegedly sprinkle some allegedly on there. Allegedly, from his account, he had posted that the 13th was going to be his world stage debut. So follow his story. That's what he had. There's a post up there under his username. They're suspecting that it was him that posted it.
And so here's what I want to know. Growing up in the Midwest, growing up in Iowa, I mean, you went hunting, people had guns. You would go to my high school back in the 80s and the pickup trucks had gun racks. Yeah. And there were 20-06s, there were 12 gauges in the parking lot of school.
That was common.
Right? It was common. So what is it? And we talked a little bit about it in our text is, what has happened to make a 20-year-old kid go, yeah, I think this is a good idea?
Yeah, this is an acceptable thing.
Well, and this is not even the first time in the last 4 years. So let's go back exactly 4 years ago. Kyle Rittenhouse took an assault rifle from Illinois to Wisconsin and shot a guy to death with it.
Let's let's call it what it is, an AR.
Yeah.
Right. That doesn't stand for assault rifle. It's just
AR-15 style.
You can have an assault hammer. Okay. So
that's true. That's true.
As a person who it's your constitutional right to have a gun, he took a AR-15 there. Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I like the line, I guess, of your questioning, right? Because it was back then when we grew up, especially you in Iowa, right? Yeah. It was very commonplace for people to be driving around with guns in their cars. It's crazy. Those things never jumped out and killed anybody.
No, kids brought them for show and tell in middle school.
30. Got it from my grandpa.
I got a new gun, and I just want to bring it for show and tell.
Yeah. So what has changed in our mentalities and our just our daily lives that it has become something that you actually really have to think about, that it's, that somebody is it, they're just so fed up with how bad things are, Or is there mental illnesses, more mental illness, or a combination of both? Or,
So
is it more acceptable to be crazy?
So they say that you have to have a number of factors to be a school shooter or a mass shooter in general these days. And it's a combination of societal factors, ideology, and mental illness. And these are the things that come together in an individual that would make them open fire on a crowd or in a situation like this.
Morning, Shana. Shana says MK Ultra and Manchurian Candidate come to mind. Psych meds involved, CIA contact of some kind, no social presence, 26 minutes of suspicion. Don't start with Kyle unless you watch the trial, she said. No, and I don't think you were saying it was the same thing. It's just like, here's a young guy who said
happening over and over and over.
Yeah,
it's another incident to be pointed at. And young. Right. I mean,
well,
you would think more people like our age would be the ones that would just be so pissed off because of the way, we always look at back when I was younger, like things were great. They weren't really great, but to us, they were great. Right. But now you would think that people like us are going, shit.
You said something that actually it makes me wonder because, like, okay, if it is just fed up with society, whatever, why is it only kids that have and this was a kid.
This is the only thing that they know, right?
He's 20 years old, voted one time in his entire life, and prior to that time, voting Republican.
No, he didn't vote.
He didn't. No, he didn't.
He's 20. You can vote when you're 18.
Yeah, it said that he voted in the last election.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
But from my standpoint, you would think that more people our age are just so fed up with how the world is. When people say it's, we're having problems. We've always had problems, but it feels like it's way more in the tank than it ever was.
And when you say our age, you're saying mid to late 50s.
I'm saying late old fuckers like me. You know what I mean? No. Yeah. Oh, by the way, happy birthday, everybody! Just to let you know, our beloved Kent Jones yesterday turned 54.
55, double
55,
nickels.
55, you're the double nicks.
Double nickels.
I missed a whole year of your birthdays.
Yeah.
I am so sorry. It's time for me to leave this podcast in its own place.
Said the guy who owns a pot shop.
We are not.
I lost track of time.
I don't know what happened there.
All right, fair game. That was a good one. I like that. Dude, you're 55.
So here's listen, there was anxiety. There was mental health issues when we were kids. We didn't necessarily tag it. We
wasn't
didn't
recognize,
right?
And
or it was recognized, whatever, right? It just everything now has a label on it. My dad and I were talking about it. Is like, are we just creating labels to give people jobs, right? But the idea is it society that says, hey, there's no right or wrong here. Now, listen, throughout history, I mean, Cain and Abel, we had assassins, right? I mean, there's been people who've been just this, the synapses didn't quite connect, and that's what goes. I'm not a murderer. I don't know how a murderer thinks, right? Or when I was 20 years old, I wasn't thinking about causing harm to anybody. I was thinking about how many days can I get drunk and can I stretch my check long enough to, pay rent. Right. So there's different what is it in today's world? And please, people out there, I think video games is a horror. Come on. We played Donkey Kong.
Right.
I'm not climbing.
No, video games have been around and the violent stuff has been around. I mean, does that help? Sure. I mean, it's not the main, I don't believe, right? It's the main cause or factor, right? I mean, there's obviously just a whole bunch of things that come together. But for me, one of the things that I also think of, that is very prevalent today is the influx and the amount of just information coming at you, good, bad, or indifferent, right? Like through social medias and stuff like that. And, where stuff that you're reading or paying attention to can really play with your psyche, and make you, if you're getting some bad information, you keep reading it, you start going down these rabbit holes. I mean, you can really get yourself from, A to Z pretty quickly with the information that's out there.
And we've talked about that before on the show, how easily you can get worked up going down internet rabbit holes and looking at the media that they're trying to shove into your face to get you all angry. And it doesn't surprise me that people get this worked up. It just, and at this point, it no longer surprises me somebody's taking a shot. I just don't necessarily understand it. Like
You never will,
I'm not
unfortunately.
surprised, but I wish I understood.
Listen, I said watching, the RNC, I was like, listen, he came in with this big bandage on his ear, former President Trump. And I'm like, listen, you know what would have sealed the deal is if he would have showed up and he had like a bullet earring in that in that ear.
Yeah.
I mean, like, hey, hey, right? Too soon. I apologize, but
No, not really.
or a nice gold loop where that
Well,
bullet went through. Like,
People generally,
I think he would look good with like a foreigner, like
Yeah.
the feather hanging
yeah,
down.
right.
I think
Yeah.
that's probably better.
Shayna says, I remember the last lone shooter incident, but they knew an assassination attempt when they saw one. Denied Secret Service detail to RFK Jr. and lots of women give to Trump's detail. It's weird. Yeah, and that's true, right? So RFK, he requested the detail. He
Right,
requested
Secret
Secret
Service,
Service because
right.
he is a candidate
right.
for the next
Of
president of the
course,
United
Turned him
States.
down.
And what happened is like 12 times he requested it and they denied him 12 times. And I'm like, listen, the last name alone,
You're right.
he's had a couple people assassinated in his family bloodline, right?
Right.
Is that right? And
He
then,
won't be campaigning in Texas. That's for sure.
and then all of a sudden after this, like, oh, yep, you can have some. Here you go.
Right.
We'll give you some. Right now, Shayna, lots of women given to Trump's detail. Listen, if you're on the Secret Service, you're trained. I don't care if you're a man
Doesn't
or a
matter.
woman.
You're
To
Secret
me,
Service.
Yeah.
again, right?
Well, and the lackadaisical security, and they have said that it could have been tighter, it could have been better, it could have been all these other things, which is always the case. People are gonna
You're gonna pick it apart after the fact.
Yeah, if there hadn't been an issue, security was great. It was the best, but
Right.
because something happened, we're picking it apart. But with the NATO conference, they're short-staffed. They have other things happening.
Well, and there are other things happening, but at the same time, there's a humanness to listen. You're a human, and you're taking out another human. I don't care if you're on Secret Service or not. I mean, you're going to protect your person or your detail, but at the same time, you still got to go home. That sniper's got to go home tonight and go.
Oh, it's still going to play with you, even though you did your job. There's days I do my job and it makes me feel like shit. Could you imagine having your job
Right.
is to, potentially have to kill somebody, or
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So that's something
Right.
you live with the rest of your life. So
and,
I'd pass on that.
You know,
one. Thank you.
and the other piece of this is we don't know. We're not Secret Service. We're not FBI. We're not trained.
We're just general
right?
humans.
We don't know protocol. Right now, here's what I say. They saw the guy. They run facial recognition on the kid. We know this because they saw him for a long time, and they're running all this background. It's this Crooks kid. He's 20. He's a Republican. No, he's probably just trying to get a view, something.
Yeah.
He's no threat. They searched his social media. I mean, they've got the technology and the ability to know exactly who you are, what you are. There are no key words that came out, and they're probably like, not a threat, not a threat, not a threat. Just watch him, see what he's doing. Not a threat. So then everybody gets mad at the local cop who goes up the ladder and says, hey, tries to talk him down. And the kid turns around and points the gun at him. Guess what? That's Barney, right? That's Barney Fife. Somebody turns and all I have is my head and shoulders above the roof line because I'm standing on a ladder. And all of a sudden the kid whips around and points an AR at me. Guess what I'm doing? I'm sliding down the ladder. Right? He's got a gun. I'm not letting my head get blown off at that point.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right. That's just human nature.
Yeah.
Now, once that happens, you've got a couple hundred people, maybe 1,000 people there. I don't know exactly the number, but if that sniper starts popping off rounds, you're causing mass hysteria. You don't know if he's a lone shooter. You don't know how many people there are.
Right.
You've got to start panning the audience. They had people probably, does anybody look suspicious? Are there any weird movements? What's going on? We don't know if he's alone, if he's not. There's a lot of things that go into this that we think we know. Oh, hey, they did, they allowed this. there's a lot of checklists and things going down. I mean,
Right.
you don't let the sniper pop off around because it's going to go crazy.
Yeah, it's not something that's very simple and very basic. I mean, there's a lot of thought and a lot of knowledge that goes into how they're finding these people, or paying attention to them and stuff like that. So it's,
I mean, and you can tell that the former President Trump, he'd been trained, because he put his hand up, saw blood, and he dove down. He knew exactly what to do. That was pretty good.
which was kind of surprising. It didn't happen right away. You know what I mean? It's because he's like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
but you know,
everyone else is freaking out. And he's like,
once the
what?
shock wears off, and you're just like,
Right.
you get shot in the ear. Do you even know it? Like at first, there's a couple seconds where you're just,
Oh,
like,
you're in total shock.
yeah,
What was
like,
that?
what the hell just happened? Like I heard something go past. My face is warm. Like, oh, well,
Yeah.
look at that. Like,
Now, I've never been shot. I've got some friends who have, right? And they say it burns.
Yeah.
It's hot, right? So I imagine that bipped him, and it was hot. Now, there are some other reports out there that say that the shot wasn't close, but what it did is hit the teleprompter, and it was shards of glass that flew by and caught him. Either way,
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right?
Right.
That's what I said. I go, it really doesn't matter.
Right.
Which is it. And yeah, the demise of Tenacious D.
yeah.
So, well, listen, Jack Black did the right thing, I think, right?
Well, especially for Australia, where the free speech laws are not necessarily the same as they are in the United States.
Correct.
They could have gotten in a lot more trouble. I think that was a preemptive maneuver to cancel the rest of the tour.
Yeah.
Knowing that could happen again, knowing what his views were on the situation, and then also being in a foreign country where you don't want to get locked up overseas anytime.
No.
Not that you want to get locked up anyway, but
Well, I do
specifically,
sometimes. I just want to know what it's like. You know what I mean? I got to have that underneath my belt.
absolutely.
Locked up? Yes.
Well,
Jail in Tijuana, check.
No, I didn't say that crazy.
no, that's the donkey show.
Yeah, that's the
Never mind.
donkey show.
Don says good morning,
Good morning,
from
Don.
Denver at a student conference. And Don, this would be interesting, I
Watch
guess,
out for the
to
walking
hear
zombies down
hear
there.
from you as well. Now, Don says he said he didn't know he had been shot until he saw the blood on his hand.
Yeah.
Well, and that's your adrenaline, that shock. You probably heard the whistle of that thing, and felt the warm sting, and be like, what the hell was that? Right. And then, when listen, I've done public speaking, Don, and I know you have too. When you're in the zone, you don't hear a lot of things or see a lot of things. It
Yeah.
depends what you're focused on, right? When I speak, I don't look at anybody. I just kind of glaze out over the top of everybody's head, right? That makes
Right.
them think I'm making eye contact, but I'm focused on delivering.
Yeah, you have to, because if you're staring at the people,
Yeah.
you're going to totally lose your train of thought.
Right. So, he's in the zone,
Yeah.
rolling this, and thank God that, because this would be a totally different day. This would be a totally different world atmosphere right now if he didn't turn his head when he did.
If he wasn't looking at that chart,
Yeah.
that all important chart,
Yeah.
that was that's a perfect timing too, right? Look what we did versus, nobody coming into the country versus this. And then
Yeah.
bam.
Yeah. Shayna says, I think something is off, but I doubt a dead firefighter was in play to feed his nurses. No, I agree.
Right.
I agree. But with the deep state, to me, you in today's world, in today's political world, you can't put doubt on any. You got to be like, right?
Yeah.
You got to think that way. But again, I go back, and Don, you work with high schools and students in your profession, and it'd be interesting to see some of the take from the students and whatnot that you work with is how do we get to this place? And the truth of the matter is, to me as an American, very embarrassed. And how did we get here as a society?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And,
Right.
yeah, that's, and the statement earlier, we were started talking about is, all of these, alleged shooters and, people doing this stuff, they're all young. Why is it the young and not us old people that are just fed up with, our world being ruined, right? Because we knew it and, in the greatest time ever. And now, no matter what you say, our world right now, in just about every shape and form is not in a good place, right?
Right.
I'm still enjoying myself, but there's not too many facets of our lives that are not in the shitter right now, right? Because of just what's going on. You can make it better or worse depending on who you are and how you're trying to view this stuff. But the fact really remains is it's messed up right now. Oh, look at that. Good morning, Don. You know what I mean?
Don.
So why isn't it us that feel we are the greatest country in the world are so pissed off and are not doing these things? Why is it these kids? They don't know any different. To them, this is how they grew up, right? I mean, political lying, and just nonsense. For us, it's like
a lot of hatred.
So
a lot of hate, right?
So that kid was born in 2004. Think about that for a second.
Right.
Okay? Kid was born in 2004. YouTube wouldn't be out for one more year. That's when we're talking about like this kid is born, doesn't have a world view. He has his isolated view.
Right.
And the details that come out immediately.
Sure.
Everybody knows his life story, right? He donated $25 to the Democratic Party when he was 17 years old, 18 registers as a Republican voter, 19, they got all of this immediately. They pulled everything he's ever done.
That's what I mean.
And what I think, two things that I think were interesting. One, if he had succeeded or even gotten away alive, his search history indicated that he was planning a lot more.
Oh, is that right? I haven't heard.
Oh, yeah. he had Googled public appearances for Donald Trump, the Secretary of State, Biden, and a bunch of other people. I think he was they're saying his search history. His search history.
He didn't care who it was. He was going after.
He just wanted to be. He wanted to be infamous.
He was cleaning the swamp, huh?
That's why they're saying it wasn't probably politically motivated. It was because I think he would have gone after anybody. I think he was.
Well, it was politically motivated, just not one specific person.
Right.
It looks like he was just wanting to be. He wanted to be famous. I think is my guess.
Ooh, look at Don's outside. Look at you, go special.
Yeah, I'm sitting on the campus of Colorado Christian University, and it's a beautiful morning here. So it says Don from Grapevine on the screen. So it's Don and Denver from Grapevine this morning.
It looks great.
It's super nice. It's super nice. It was hot earlier in the week, but and if I have to jump off, just forgive me if I have to jump off. But yeah, Kent, your comment about students, I haven't talked to a lot of them here this week because it's been a very packed schedule. This is our last morning, but I would say the number one thing is most of them don't pay attention for two reasons. One of them, that it's just something they've never gotten into, and it's not, politics is not interesting to them, and so they kind of just, not for no bad reason, they just don't pay attention. They're paying to their friends, they're paying attention to social media, if they're a Christian club leader like we're dealing with, or if they're in athletics. And I think the other one, though, and I think the one that I hear more often is all they hear, and we hear it too, but we try to weed through it, but all they hear is the bickering and you stink and you stink and you stink and you stink. And so because of that, they just block it out. Well, this isn't worth paying attention to, because it does take a little effort, as we all know, to dig through the garbage to try to understand, never mind how much the media distorts everything and that kind of thing. So I think they just check out for one of those two reasons, which is a bad thing. And what I'm hoping and praying for as a result of some of this, and historically it's just proven to be very, very, very short-lived, is a little bit more unity and a little more calmness in discussion. And I think we're seeing that, but it won't last very long. I mean, remember how 9/11, we were all together for about a day and a half.
Yeah.
So I don't hold out hope for that, but it would be nice.
Yeah. And I like what Shana says. We get here by losing our common decency. The pick a team has given us a buffet of outlets for righteous rage, false flag, black swan, who's and why. And I agree. And it was great to see the sitting president, go, hey, this has got to stop. Right. This has now we've pushed this just too far, right? It's like when your kids are, just nagging at you, and then you snap, like, go to your room, Right. That's where all of a sudden now I think the powers that be are going, ooh, I know what we wanted to do,
Mhm.
but now we've gone two
Yeah,
steps
we
too
pushed a little
far.
too far.
But Kent, another thing that a comment I would say is it's, we like to blame the politicians. I would suggest it's our fault, the public, the United States public. Why is that? Is because the only reason we get mean-spirited, hateful campaigns is those are the ones that work. Somebody that just talks about policy and just shares, policy is boring and that's no fun to listen to.
Oh.
And so we, in some ways, we get what we deserve because we respond. The only reason people run negative campaigns is because they work.
Well,
and if they would be rejected, they wouldn't. If they didn't work, it would reduce the rhetoric. If people actually said, "No, if you're going to talk like that, I'm not going to vote for you." But that's not the way it works today.
I understand that again, we go back to that pick a team side. Now, Man Cow or who's the other shock jock? Stern. People who like those listen for maybe listen for 5 or 10 minutes. The people who hate them listen for the 3-hour show.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Good point.
I do that a lot on this show. I poke at Scott. Because that brings in listenership. Like, oh God,
right.
You know what I mean?
Nothing in this world.
Kumbaya doesn't sell, does it, Kent? Kumbaya doesn't sell very well.
Yeah, no.
Good things don't. People don't watch news to hear all the happiness. When I don't know why, because when
they say they don't report the plane landed safely, do they? Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's because that's not news.
Right. I mean, and then now one side is saying, let's not call it an assassination attempt. The report's not in, the investigation's not done. And that same side photoshopped out the American flag when Trump stood up and he's bloody and pounded his fist, said fight, right? So on one, depending on which channel you're watching, one channel has the correct picture, the other takes it away because we don't want that to look like, hey, we're strong,
Well, the one thing that Shayna said in her comment, which I really appreciate, is the pick a team has given us, you don't pick a team. That's one of the biggest issues I have with today's political. And I know we don't talk, but this is something that we have to talk about, right? It shouldn't be all or nothing, right?
Love you, Don.
Pick the right person.
Yeah.
Pick the right person, not the team, because if you're a Republican, not all the Republicans are going to be good. And if you're a Democrat, not all the Democrats are good. I pick the person when it comes to an election on the one that I feel is going to be best suited for that position at this time in our society. What's going on, right? I'm not going to vote a straight ticket.
So our good friend Gary over in Singapore a few years ago said, we're always going to have the divisiveness as long as a qualifier comes before the word American. I'm Jewish American. I'm Latin American. I'm
just American.
No longer are we just American. And we've taken, I've heard several times over the past week that America is an idea.
Yeah.
What? No, it's a country.
Say that all the time.
Right. And I get what they're trying to say, but words do have meaning. So here's the other, what I love too. Shayna says it was amazing how they found a classmate to set the generic story of being bullied. What's real with the capability we have to create? Right. Oh, within minutes. Oh yeah. No, he was a loner. He got bullied. You just looked at him and you knew he was off.
Most kids,
bullied,
loaned.
Yeah.
I mean,
they supposedly conducted over 200 interviews in less than 24 hours. I mean, that was up immediately. They asked everybody from, you babysat him as a kid to
yeah, right. You dated him
to people that he bought his breakfast sandwich here this morning. Like, what
was your take on him?
Yeah.
Oh, he was really scary.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. He had a ladder and a rifle. I didn't know what he
bought a sausage sandwich and a Red Bull. I mean, holy Christ.
Right.
Right. Yeah. For me though, I mean, the whole thing is, is not picking one area to go with, is using your brain and deciding who and what.
The teams is really is the right word for it. I've said for a long time in something, when you pick a team, You know, like you're not a 90s Bulls guy. You were never a Bulls guy.
I hate the Bulls.
Right? A lot of people are Bulls.
I'm not even a big Michael Jordan fan.
Right. But see, so people pick their teams for sports. You root for your team. It's my favorite team because it's where I'm from, blah, blah, blah. People treat elections the same way. They treat politics the same way. You don't just pick a side and root for everything they do.
They pick a team that all the best players to come together and to complement, and help each other. Right. Not just, we're going to pick everybody from Louisville, or we're going to pick everybody from U of I. You know what I mean? Specific areas. We want this guy. Why? Well, because this is what he brings to the table. Yep. You know, like when they brought Rodman in, they knew he was a pain in the ass, right? But he worked well with what they wanted him to do. He was not necessarily a team player for these guys, but he fit on that team because he made it work.
Yeah.
Highest rebounds in the league.
Right. Figure out what makes a team work and can work together to better our society, not just because they have an R or a D or an independent in front of them. I don't give a shit. I want to know what they can do for us and why, how they're going to complement the other people that are in there.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, unfortunately, when they see stuff like that, right? Your favorite player gets traded on. Let's say you follow football, your favorite quarterback gets traded to another team. Now that team is whooping your team in the following season. Now you don't like that quarterback because it's on the other team.
When Shaq got traded, I always liked Shaq.
I don't know if you like him. So that's the thing.
So a lot of people are like that. A lot of people are, but a lot of people aren't.
Right, and this is the thing. If you like that person for what they do, shouldn't matter where they're at, right? If they're doing the job and they're doing something that you really enjoy to watch them doing, what really does it matter? I mean, it would be nice to be on my team because they're going to win, but you support them, like you said, Shaq or whatever, right? Because he's a good player, right? Yeah. Just for who he is and what he can do, not who he's associated with, not what he gives his money to or time to. He's suited for this job.
Yeah.
Let's let him do it.
So let's talk about this. And I like what Don says here is we don't condemn hate. There are not enough consequences. People will not say something is wrong. Everyone has their truth. And that's where, pardon my French, that's the pussification of America. Now, my daughter, Ashley, is a clinical psychologist. And what she does is she helps people live with their diagnosis, not to ignore it, right? But you have this diagnosis. How do we live with it? Right. Yeah. You have to be until you're dead. You have
functional.
Right. And unfortunately, we're so afraid to point it out. Right. We can't say the word retarded anymore.
No, I've gotten in trouble for that before.
Right.
It's a very negative connotation, but it's really not when it was really brought out. Right.
Right.
So when I was a kid, it meant everything, including people could actually be retarded.
Right.
And now you can't retarded just across the board. You can't say it as an insult.
Right.
Which I that was a generational thing.
Right.
Like it was never.
Right. Well, gay was the same thing. God, so gay. Yep. Right. But now we can't say
it meant nothing disrespectful. It's just
right.
funny. It was.
My dad has always used the word queer to mean odd in the dictionary definition. You're like, that's a little queer, isn't it? And it's like, Dad, you sound queer when you say that. You sound odd. And
that was verbiage. And that was acceptable back then, right? And for what reason? A lot of people got on it saying that's disrespectful and that's demeaning. And if it's used, depending on, so words have meaning, right? Depending on the context in which it's used, it absolutely can be.
Yeah.
Right. But your dad's use of it is, instead of saying it's different, that's clear. That's clear.
Kent, in other words, you could say the pussification of America is all thanks to, boiled down to Tipper Gore. You know how I feel about Tipper.
Thanks for joining our show today, guys. We really appreciate you because we don't talk politics.
That's right. And Tipper, thanks for listening.
Yeah, Tipper, send us a check for keeping you with it.
Right.
Yeah, I kept you relevant, Tipper.
That's right.
Just remember that.
That's right. But that's
I need another cup of
yeah, go grab it. But the honest to God truth is we start tiptoeing around things, right? Oh, I can't say that Scott's got autism. Scott knows he's got autism. Right? Yeah, you know what I mean?
Right.
Listen, when I was growing up, here's the God's honest truth. When I was growing up, and I was in elementary school, it was divided. You had the smart kids in a class. Hey, you're above average. You're going to go to this special reading because you can read a lot. Then you had your average, who see Dick run, see Jane run, and then you had kids like me who weren't real good at reading.
Couldn't even understand what they were saying.
And we're like, the tiger has stripes. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Well, you just brought me back to grade school.
Right. Well,
because you and I were in the same
spot.
Yeah,
but the honest to God truth is, we weren't like, well, I hate Jimmy because he can read.
He's smarter than me.
You're just like,
know the difference.
You're just like, Jimmy's cool. He can read real fast.
Right.
Well, it's amazing that he's reading
like,
that.
How does he do that shit? That's crazy.
Right.
I
Now
look at the word and it moves over and around on the page.
But we knew, right? And I knew that Bob Green, was the smartest kid in the class, right? And Sarah Shively. Those two had brains.
Pulled those names up super fast.
Oh yeah, those kids
back in grade school. Look at him.
That was high school. Those guys had brains bubbling out of their ears. I mean, you just knew it. You just, by talking to them, and you're like, you're struggling on 2 + 2, and they're doing calculus, and it's 8th grade, whatever. You're like, I don't even know what calculus is, but we knew there wasn't a, hey, we can't tell Scott that he can't read real well. And you know what? We're going to lump him in with Jim, who can read, 20,000 words a minute. And because we can't let Scott know that he's different. No, you can.
You should. And you should cater to the differences, right?
Yeah.
You should help with that and understand that. And that's exactly what happened to me in school, right? Like, just, whatever. Here you go. He'll figure it out. And
Don says that L invented the internet, not Tipper.
Oh.
Shayna says, just because you don't recognize the negative attached, the pacification, quote unquote, for instance. I don't know.
So what she followed it up by saying was the intent is the gauge for offense.
Okay.
So
okay. Yeah.
That 100% tracks, and she's absolutely right. And so I could call you a fuzzy wumpkins, and if I said it like it was endearing, it's endearing. And if I said it to actually cut you deep, the intent is there.
Yes.
I just turned that into a word that I shouldn't say to you. You fucking fuzzy wumpkins, right? Like, and yeah, it sounds stupid, but I could turn that into
I still just want to hug you.
Right? No, I picked something particularly cuddly sounding. It's my fault. Yeah. But the point is the same.
Right.
There's a lot of white kids in the inner city that throw around the N-word, and they don't mean the offense behind it.
Right.
But as soon as you turn around and you look at someone in the face and you use the N-word and direct it at them, that offense, the meaning behind what you have said completely changes.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
the
intent is the offense.
I remember
100%.
Shayna says, I remember singing rhymes involving catching a tiger. I'm horrified now.
Well, that's because they taught you as a child you could catch a tiger by the toe.
Right.
You can't. They're very fast.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
That intent back then was just what they thought, right? They didn't. There was no harm. There was nothing negative to be viewed by it.
Right. We measure today by the person saying
okay.
I'm offended versus any thought of intent. Right. And that's why I again we don't want to trigger people, so we don't want to say there was an assassination attempt. Right. This was former president of the United States.
Right.
Shot at, hit.
Right.
Ronald Reagan shot at, hit, because of somebody, Roy, wanted to impress a movie star.
Mm-hmm.
Period. So there's your rocker isn't rocking all the way back or forward at that point, right? And obviously the rocker on Crooks not.
So let me ask you this. You kind of brought up the point, which kind of to me is really interesting, right? Like when did it become okay, or when did the world just all of a sudden be like, oh, you can't say that, it's so mean, you know what I mean? Like we were really cautious on everything that was said, right? Like everybody's getting offended at everything. Like you can't. It's really
started back in the 2000s with politically correct. Remember all that?
Hard to be to tell somebody. I mean, some people need to have them fucking just lashed out. Right. You know what I mean? You need to say that to them. I mean, for me, there's been times where I've gotten lashed out from people and it actually helped, right? It's like, shit, I didn't think that. Even on the show, right? Yeah. Like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that. But today, the pussification, as you put it, right?
Yeah.
You can't do that. So people don't realize that they're not going down the wrong track, or their thought processes might be a little skewed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll just let them do that. It's okay. It's their world. Let them do their world. But you got to share this world with how many other billions of people?
Exactly. And we don't have we don't have meaningful discourse anymore. Meaningful discourse didn't lead to this attempted assassination.
No.
This wasn't thought out. This wasn't thoughtful. This is again, it's a disturbed individual getting way too caught up in his rabbit holes online. I mean, and there have been disturbed individuals trying to kill other people. I mean, even like John Lennon, right? Dude shot him to death holding an annotated copy of Catcher in the Rye. Somehow he thought he was Holden Caulfield, right? Like, what's going on in your head that you thought that shooting John Lennon meant that made you Holden Caulfield? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't track, but we know that's what his intent was. We know that about him. It doesn't have to make sense because it happened, but like, then now we've got this kid, and like everyone's trying to find out some, everyone would like to know the motive. Something like this happens. You want to know I want to know the motive. I want to know why it happened because I don't understand it. I can't wrap my brain around it, and we may never. And he's a kid. If I find out his motive, doesn't help me at all. Well, his motive was stupid.
I was just going to say, it doesn't really so much matter his motive, right? And I don't mean, I'm not just downplaying that, but it doesn't so much matter his motive. His motive was pretty obvious, right? Yeah. But why? What got him to that point? What in this kid's world, right, was just so bad and so detrimental that he felt he needed, other than maybe, like some people say he wanted to be famous, right? What's going on? I mean, why is it so much more prevalent today that people are just going off their rockers and doing horrific things like this? We've had it all. Like I said, I'll reiterate how the world has always been messed up, right? It's just way more pronounced right now and way more in our faces because of social media and
I think that's what it is.
Fake news and stuff like that. So how do you stop that? How do you turn that around? How do you get people to look at things differently and have a better view and understand that, this is the way the world really works. And, you've got to look for yourself and kind of understand and figure out how you fit in and not, I don't want to say not go off the rocker, but go off your rocker. I mean, and it's pretty, to me, I would think that it's pretty obvious that you can see changes in people, right, that are going down this bad rabbit hole, right? I mean, I know when I'm going down something, I'm feeling different. I'm doing things differently. Like if I'm going down and people can see me change, right? I can see a difference in me, a difference in my demeanor and stuff. How do people not catch that? Or do they not want to say anything because they don't want to, hey,
don't want to trigger you.
Right. I can't think of the kid's name, but I'm not going to say anything to him. I don't want to trigger him. I'm going to piss him off. Just let him, he'll be fine. Well, no, he's not. Look what he just did.
Right.
Right. I mean, people are, and like for me and you, like we like to help people. We like people. We love people, right?
I think our table covering is shedding on your shirt.
Oh, shit. Only white shirt I got until it gets washed. But why don't we say anything? Why did we shut up? Because you're offending me. Well, maybe I should offend you. Sometimes you need to be offended to take a little better look at yourself and go, "Ooh, they're right."
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I do need to change. I'm going down a bad path, or this is not the way it should be. But no, we won't. Just leave him alone. He's fine. He's going through something. Fuck that.
Well, Kent said it before. This is the oldest story in the book. Cain and Abel, the original murderer, the original victim, and since then, I mean, throughout history, there are notable assassinations. There are notable murders, but right now, you just nailed it on the head. We know about every single one because social media is pushing them in our faces. This has always been happening, but I do think it's become part of a culture. For a kid born in 2004, which is almost 10 years after Columbine, right? He was born into a world where mass shootings were a thing that turned people
more famous than not,
famous or infamous. You got your name in the history books, and you know what? The kid wasn't wrong. If that was any part of his thought process, is I'll be famous. Yes, absolutely, you will be. People will remember your name. I know his name. Would I have known his name otherwise? No. He's dead now, so what doesn't really do him much good. But that's
so. So Shayna says, do any of you get world respective and long form podcasts like Rogan? I don't listen to Joe Rogan, but the world perspective I get through conversations with people who I've met through the station. So, like Gary, and there's some other people that I'll talk to over in Germany and things like that. to get that perspective. And it's interesting, but they'll watch the news and they think that America is a soap opera. I mean, they watch it for
according to other
entertainment purposes.
Compared to other countries, we are a soap opera.
Yeah.
It was
in the idiocy of a lot of the things that we do over here and our reasonings behind them.
Yeah.
Other countries look at us and go,
it was crazy last year actually watching like the news in Scotland and Ireland. Like you flip on the TV in the hotel room.
Yeah.
All month long, I'm watching American news being told by non-American reporters, and the perspective is crazy.
Right.
Like, and it's entertainment. They're
it is because
fun.
well, and rightfully so. I mean, we are this. I mean, as an America, especially now, we're a spectacle.
We are.
You know what I mean? I mean, we're not running our country like it should be run. It's not run like a business. It's run for gain, for somebody else's gain, or for what they feel right now is better and best, not what historically is shown. This is what we need to do, and stay the fuck out of these areas, right? Like, let's just run our country, give people an opportunity to make a living, make a life, and stay out of all the little nitty-picky shit that they grab onto.
Now, throughout history here in the United States of America, there has never been a president that everybody has agreed with or liked.
Never will be.
But the bottom line is the unfortunate thing is the political divide. Going back to what Shana said, you have to choose a side. I choose the American side. Right.
Yes,
there are things that happen that I'm not going to be happy with. There are taxes that I pay that I don't have to be happy with.
Let's not go there.
Right. But the fact of the matter is, we've lost our pride in our nation as a nation.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, oh my gosh, back in the 1600s, 1800s, there was slavery. I get it. You know what? Not everybody's perfect. Right.
We make mistakes and we change.
But I can say, here's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
We stopped calling them slaves and called them employees and gave them a little bit more money.
And it's a good, so to that point, right? Whoever came, I mean, how was it ever? I guess I'm going to use the word drilled into our heads that you have to choose one side and stick with that side.
Correct.
Because when you talk with people, it's either all Democrat or all Republican or all independent. It's like, well, wait a minute.
Of the biggest.
When you run a business and anything, it's not one way is the only way.
Yeah.
Because if you do something with only one way and only one idea or one thought process, you're fucked.
Well, yeah, and if you run a
at
Fortune 500 company and you put out a job ad for a CEO, how many applicants do you get?
Right.
2?
Yeah.
No. You get a bunch, and you get to pick the best one. You don't get to pick from 2.
And you're not going, I need this guy that lived in Chicago and did this before. You're going to look at, I'm hoping, right? Like for me, I look at the big picture. Right. I know you guys probably think differently, but I do think fairly deeply on times.
Oh, once in a while.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's like, it just boggles my mind. It's like, I think part of it comes down to laziness, maybe. Right. Like, I'm just going to choose one party and just go with it because that's how I feel, instead of really investigating, like everybody and feeling what they're about. So it is going to take some time to, it's going to take some of your precious time in life to do it. But you tell you what, it makes your life better if you actually take time and pay attention to what the fuck's going on.
And Heather, good morning. Heather says people do stick to one side, and so many expose themselves to only that side.
Yeah, the confirmation
it's
bias
lazy.
is real.
It's lazy.
It is lazy.
But here's the deal: is I go back to I'm a Gen Xer. I don't care who you vote for, really none of my business. I really don't care. If you're a dick, fuck off.
Right.
If you're a good person, hey man, let's break bread.
Right.
Let's have some fun. Let's sit by the fire, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
That's the way I was raised. My frustration came with posts and things on social media, just of the hatred. Right. Now, listen, what happened? I don't have to agree, but I have to respect the seat, right? I'm not the biggest fan of the sitting president, but by God, he's the president of the United States, right? And to me, a president, I don't care if it was Jimmy Carter, I don't care if it was one of the Bushes, I don't care if it was President Clinton, whatever, right? I really don't care. When there's an attempt on a president or former president, as an American, I go, what's wrong that we all don't just go, wait a second.
Yeah.
Right. Wait.
And think about this one too. I didn't dive into it, but my wife was telling me how many people were making shitty comments like, "Oh, next time we won't miss," and this, that, and the other. And these people, which was good because a lot of people have apparently banded together. And now all these people that were making these stupid ass comments, which is just has no right.
Right.
It's a person. He's a life, right? He's a person. He doesn't deserve to be shot. He's trying what he thinks to better our country, right? But now these people were getting fired, which thank you. Whoever did it, thank you so much, because that is a big problem with us today. You know, the keyboard warriors and all this stuff. And, you know, you're going to, hey, just an inch over and you would have been gone. All our problems would have been gone. But no, that would have been even worse.
The funny thing is, to me, is the people who are anti-gun were saying, shouldn't have missed.
right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Saying, right?
I'm like, wait.
You shouldn't have guns, but hey, it almost killed the guy I hate.
I've been avoiding this for one specific reason.
Don't
because
dive in, brother.
And it's because all of the people saying, "Oh, how dare you say, you know, just an inch over, we cut our problem solved." Like all the people that are so gung ho about that, I wonder what they would say if Biden had been shot.
They would have gun control.
I wonder what their posts would have read instead of "How dare you say that?" I wonder what it would have said. That's all. Because people are so worked up, and they get worked up online, and they argue.
You're not wrong for thinking that, because you know what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? Why are these people, you know, because they don't like him, they're choosing him, but he's a human, right? It's like, where have we gone? Like, it's a human's life. Doesn't matter that he's a narcissist. Doesn't matter that he's a billionaire and that he's you know, people feel that he's cheated us out with, you know, his taxes and all. He's still a human. He doesn't deserve to die. And he doesn't deserve those shitty comments. So kudos to the companies and to the people that allowed for these people to get fired, because that shit is just unacceptable.
And Shayna, I was hearing about this 2025 thing that was apparently teeing up the end of free society. The news told me as much. I read it. No way are these folks speaking for themselves. No, and Shayna, you and I could talk for hours on that as well.
If we did politics on the show, we done 2025.
First of all, it's a paper written by a corporation, and anyway, we won't go down that route. We don't have enough time on the show to go down that. But I've had some good conversations with people who are posting things, and just good conversations.
So the fact that you just said I've had some good conversations, I relish. I really do like having. I don't like politics in its whole, in the political atmosphere it's created, but I do enjoy speaking with people that can have a conversation about it as why, right? Not even a discussion, a conversation.
I miss
a
discourse.
Right.
I can't. So it's for well, I'm sure you know it too, and everybody out there, right? To even try to talk to somebody that's of the opposite thinking. It's not even a conversation. It's an argument from the word go. And that doesn't solve anything, right?
No, there, you know, you have to be. The unfortunate thing is, we are given a little bit of information on a topic, and then we believe we know. Right. But the idea of research is out the window anymore, or to really dig in. In debate, you have to know your other side's position better than yours.
Yes, always.
And then you have to be able to defend yours, but it's like a chess game, right? And the bottom line is nobody does that anymore.
We haven't seen that in years and years.
Right.
Well,
listen, the unfortunate thing is, the unfortunate thing is that this was a very, literally the world would be spinning different today.
Oh, if it had
if it was a successful alleged assassination,
right. Well, you know,
all over the world,
right.
And you know, the best thing that I can say now is we have to watch what happens now at the DNC, because 3 months ago they were like, "This is our guy," and now they're like,
"We should probably get rid of him."
Let's give him COVID. Never mind. Allegedly.
And
President, I hope that you get well soon.
Right.
COVID.
A lot of people have been saying Parkinson's too. I've been hearing that thrown.
Well, you know, one of the things that really irks the shit out of me, like when it comes to trying to have discussions with people, right, is the second that you tell them, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not a one-party guy by any means, but the second let's just say, I'm going to assume I'm a Republican, the whole world changes, right? If I say, hey, I'm a Republican, their whole preconceived notion of who I am and what I am, you know, I'm already
So true.
I'm already behind the 8 ball, right? Like it doesn't even matter what I say anymore because I'm a Republican, right? And I've had that happen to me a few times, and I didn't even say who I was or wasn't for, right?
That's the worst.
But when they assume, right, what you're doing
Yeah.
or who you're for, the whole scenario, the whole vibe of that conversation changes,
Yeah.
right? Like, and it's insane. And that's one thing that drives me nuts because I actually got approached in a bar like 4 years ago. Right. Standing with one of my friends, never met this person in my life, came up to me, tapped me on the shoulder, and just started fucking railing me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a small business owner, assuming that I am a Republican. Right. Just laying, just lady.
Just a random dude at a bar?
No, a lady.
Lady
And the funny thing, I can't even
wow.
say, but I'll tell you guys after the show who this person turned out to be. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I was just like, you don't even know who I am. You're assuming of who I'm supporting, and you're going to change the entire scenario and the conversation with me based on something that isn't even true.
Yeah.
Because
So
of your assuming, and
somebody asked me that this week. A meeting with them, and they're like, can I ask your political views? I said, sure, go ahead.
Really?
Yeah. And then they go, what are they? I said, I'm a free thinking American. And I go, that's it.
Well, I would.
Right.
And
they kind of looked at me, and I go, listen, I want you to understand that I know human beings are human beings, and just because you have a letter in front of your name doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to agree with everything that you say or disagree with everything that you say.
Shouldn't.
So I go, so here's who I am. I'm not going to say I'm an independent. I'm not going to say I'm a Democrat. I'm not going to say I'm a Republican. I'm a free thinking American. And if you want to have a conversation about anything, we'll have it.
That's a really good response. I like that. I'm a free thinking American.
If I don't have the information, I'm going to say, you know what? We can't have a solid conversation because I don't know enough about that. Right. So let me do some research. Let me read into it or whatever. Let's get back together in a week and let's talk about it.
Right.
And usually at the end of that week, they're gone.
Right. Because you know you're going to have enough information.
Right.
And that for me, and that's where is a I guess a negative against me, right? Like I will argue to the fucking death on something just because they piss me off, right?
No.
Well, because of the way that the flavor of the conversation, right, or the tone that it goes, it's like, no, I don't even care if you're right. I'm just going to argue to the fucking death because
and
you're an idiot.
So you're part of the problem.
On some respects, and that's why I said that. In some respects, I am, but I've caught myself, right, going that. Why?
Because we as Americans now have an overwhelming need to be right. Right? Who's going to win? I need to win this conversation.
Yeah.
Instead of going, those are really good ideas there, Steve. A little bit crazy. And I think the crack that you're on makes you think oddly. But you know what? Good ideas. And okay, let me.
That's a good topic.
Steve's not on crack, people.
The desire, you don't know.
Matt,
This coffee's great.
Don't label me.
Don't label me.
But no, you're right. It's the having to win every argument, and what gets me with political discourse or discourse in general, right now is the derailment. Nobody has like a meaningful conversation. The whatabouts, and I've talked about the whatabouts before. The whatabouts run wild.
Yes.
Hey, did you hear what the Republican guy said about
this?
Hey, what about the Dem? What about the Democratic guy? Oh, okay. We weren't talking about that.
Right.
Hey, did you hear what the Democrat guy did? Well, what about him? What about the Republican? Well, we were talking about this guy.
Yeah, that we were over here.
Now, how are okay? Well, what about this guy?
It's distraction.
That's a different guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Good job pointing out the differences. I feel like I'm reading Goofus and Gallant.
So true.
Right. What are we talking about?
Right.
Like, why can't we just have a conversation about something
Right.
and have it be meaningful?
And that's I love that because that's for me once again why, because I'm not the only one, right, that does those things, right? But so why? And I've tried to figure this out about myself. I have some good ideas behind it, but why is it that in this world we feel that we need to be right all the time and not to accept someone else's thought and go? They actually have signs up on the street. I don't know if you saw that or not. Something like, listen to someone else's opinion. You might be right. Or, they might be right, instead of just downplaying it. because apparently it's happening a lot
Well,
more.
we've forgotten what opinion means.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's just my thought. It's my thought process, and
Right.
I love to hear it. And it's depending on the person.
Well,
So
that's
it's just
great.
somebody that comes up that's just going to argue me to death. I'm going to argue them to the death just to.
Well, right.
piss
That's
them
what
off,
Shayna
right?
says. Scott, have you seen the meme? I knew I was wrong 10 minutes ago, and now I'm just making you angry.
Well, right, and hey, I'm guilty of that one. I'm guilty of that one to certain respects because when those people, like, if they do that, like, their agenda, I think, is to piss you off and to really upset you. And I'm going, well, wait a minute, let's have this discussion.
Yeah.
Let's not have an argument. So then, when I can't get him to have a discussion, and it becomes an argument. It's like, all right, fuck it, all bets are off. You know what I mean? I'm just going to say everything I can to just literally piss you off.
Yeah.
Are we done yet?
No.
So somebody said something recently that I've read.
Good morning, Vietnam.
And it was the increasing entitlement in this country and with people in general. The increasing entitlement means that people misunderstand what opinion means.
Correct.
The entitlement has people thinking my opinion is just as valid as your opinion, even though mine is uneducated and not based off of anything
but
but
yours
how
is
I feel.
wrong.
But I feel that way, and I'm entitled to feel that way.
Right.
And
You
you can't
absolutely
tell
are.
me no. Yeah, that's fine, but your opinion still isn't valid.
Right.
You
Steve's
can't-
mom and dad.
You can't go. You can't go up to a doctor and tell that doctor, hey, I think what's causing my husband's illness is XYZ, right? You couldn't do that because the doctor knows better. The
Right.
doctor's educated. Your opinion on the situation is not as valid, but to think that it is the problem with the entitlement in this day and age. When you're arguing, somebody like you said, they pick teams. And then they're like, well, my team says this. I'm going to argue this. I have no basis on the argument I'm making, but I'm right, and I'm entitled to that opinion. I'm entitled to be as loud as I want with that opinion. Right. And it's like, well, technically you can, but it's not good practice.
Don says, feelings now equal truth. Too many people. I feel, therefore I am, and I am right.
Yeah, that's a whole nother freaking.
That's 100%.
Podcast. The real question is, and here's what I'm going to say, and I'm not necessarily a big fan of former President Trump. We usually call him the Orange Man.
He didn't look very orange last night.
This is what I'll say. We said this in the green room. I am thankful that the assassination attempt failed. Right.
Yeah.
And I watched this man over the last few days. And his aura
he's totally changed.
Has changed. And where he, he was the Teflon Don, I think he realized just how close. And probably if you haven't seen it, Google what his wife, the statement that his wife put out, because it's probably one of the strongest statements.
Melania put something out.
Yeah, after it happened, it's probably one of the strongest statements that I've heard in a long, long time. And it didn't pick sides. It just.
Do you remember basically what she said?
Basically what she said is like, listen, you may not disagree with a political person or whatever, but you have to remember that they are still a human being and they have a family and a loving family and blah, 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 blah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm bastardizing it, but if you Google
the gist of it is basically he's a human, right? And that's the way more people need to look at things. He's not a Democrat. He's not a Republican. He's not an independent. He's a human, and he's trying to do what he thinks is best for our world.
Yeah.
I respect that. You know what? I wouldn't want anything to do with being out in that public figure, because you get your personality and your livelihood gets assassinated no matter what you are. Yeah. Right. I mean,
all right, Don, love you, buddy. Great to have you with us. We'll see you next week. Yep. And I know we're over, but this is it's a good conversation, I think. And
it's absolutely.
And here's the beauty. We're talking about a political situation. We're talking politics, right? We're not on a grandstand. We don't, we're talking about an incident that happened to a political figure.
Pushing an agenda or certain parties.
But the idea is this. I think I hope this brings America a step back to exhale and go, you know what? Something's got to change. here.
Fuck, I hope so.
The divisiveness
I hope so.
has to change.
I
would love.
I know it's a pipe dream.
Come on,
I know it's
come
a
on,
pipe
come on,
dream,
be
bro.
optimistic. Be optimistic.
I know it's a pipe dream, bro.
Optimistically, everyone will change for the better. In reality, most likely, it'll just ratchet up the xenophobia, and everyone will double down twice as hard as they were before.
And here's where my thought is. My thought is this: is I'm scared for the sitting president.
Yeah,
because the retaliation or what, you know what I mean? That's that's kind of the world we live in now. Is I'm like, this is scary to me.
So can we talk about the irony for a second?
Sure.
Of the topic of what his speech was on during, like, right when it happened?
It was about the
we gotta close off our borders. Look at all we did. People are coming into this country causing problems, and then a white kid from his hometown takes a shot right there in the middle of that conversation. Where's the problem? Is it coming from our borders? Or is it coming from this homebrewed terrorist with no ties to anything else? That we made this kid. We made this kid.
The answer to that is only yes.
Yeah.
It's from all angles, because there's such a, I'm going to say there's just such American unrest.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's not even political unrest anymore. It's American unrest. Like everybody. Yeah. Once again, I use a lot of definitive statements, but I feel everybody, it's just, I'm fed up with it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm tired of it. I know that's never going to be beautiful. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, but holy Christ, like, come on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where does this end? Right. And how do we come together to work for the greater good?
Yeah.
Because it's not for the greater good right now. It's about this side and that side and this. It's like, no.
And we become a nation where freedom
is not
you
free.
can have it as long as it fits my definition of it.
Right. And as long as you pay enough taxes.
Listen, Scott, I can't have you walking around in a dress because that's not my idea of freedom.
You don't like my legs?
Right.
You don't like my legs?
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah. So
J. Edgar Hoover did it better.
So yeah. Right. So there's a lot to it, and I still go back to words have meanings. We know what those meanings are. No matter how we try to twist it or recreate a definition for something, I think inevitably our brain knows what opinion means. Our brain knows what freedom means,
Right.
But again, we've come to that point where it's, you can have your freedoms as long as I'm okay with your freedom.
As long as you're following this design idea.
But as long as you stepped outside of my definition of freedom or what I believe you should be free to do or not do, okay.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Well, and that's, I mean, I think in a nutshell, what needs to just have happen is, you need to live our lives and do what is, get back to the basics.
Yeah.
Right. The basics. Everything has become way too complicated. There's always 18 different directions. I mean, I know it's a very simple statement that I'm throwing out there, but the basics, right?
Hey,
I mean, running a country, being a person, being a human.
Yeah.
Be a fucking human, right? Just respect everybody for what they are. Don't go changing the world and changing a million laws for a couple people. And I don't no disrespect, but let's just be human. Let's accept people for what they are.
Here's the thought I want to leave everybody with this week is, why is America the only nation in the world where you can bastardize the national anthem?
She was drunk.
No, everybody. You go any other country, it's like nah, 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 nah. And now we get people who are like, let me put my
let me
yodel in the middle of the anthem.
Yeah, let me put a country swing on it.
I don't understand.
It's wonderful.
You'll never will.
Yeah, I never
Singing
will.
some song about a guy named Jose.
Jose. Can you see? Oh no, you can't.
We locked down the borders. That's right. We locked down the borders. Jose can't.
Because I took your glasses, Jose. Sorry.
All right, listen.
Jose can't see over the wall.
Yeah, we're 15 minutes over, but this is a great conversation. I love you guys for that. Thanks everybody for tuning in and being part of this. Remember, later today is In the Know with Steph and Joe at 3. They're talking about luck versus work. Are you lucky or do you have a hard work ethic?
Both.
Right?
Because the harder you work, the luckier you get.
And do not ask me to pretend to believe you. Reality is voluntary. But the bottom line is, that's what the grounds is all about. Is just we bring up a topic, we talk about it. I think it was a great conversation. It needed to be had. Next week we'll be back with another goofy topic. Who knows? Or
are we doing Columbus next week? Or
yeah, maybe. Was the founder of America truly a pirate, or was he not?
Or was he just an independent businessman looking for a new place to set
you
up
never
shop?
know. You never
Hey
know.
guys, thank you for tuning in with us today. We really appreciate it. And if you stayed with us the whole hour and 15, it's definitely an interesting conversation. And I hopefully didn't, you don't take a political view out of this from it, because it's not a political view on our side. It really is just, it's just the temperature of the nation, right? And what's going on, and how can we fix it, and what's going on, because we're the only ones that can do it. You know what I mean? And if it doesn't, if we don't start with us, I always say, be the change you want to see in the world. If you don't start with it, how can you expect someone else to do it? Right. So we love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great week. And we'll see you next Friday.
You got it.
And once again, happy birthday.
Thank you,
my buddy.